And here's the part that still surprises me. One of the biggest expansions of my life did not happen in childhood at all, even though it felt like it at the time. It happened in my 50s. The once shy girl who struggled to speak up, the one who kept starting over, listened to something steady and sure within herself and stepped out of a career she'd held for 30 years. She became a public speaker. She launched a podcast. She became a version of herself she never could have imagined as that quiet little girl who kept losing friends to new zip codes. I know I'm not for everyone, but I know I'm honoring myself in this life I'm building. Hi there, I'm Wendy Rimmelsbacher, and welcome to the podcast show Dim to Daring. Do you feel like there's something bigger waiting for you, but you're not sure how to make it happen? You're in the right place. I'm here to bring you inspiring stories, powerful insights, and practical strategies to help you reignite your spark, realign with your purpose, and take those bold steps towards the life you were meant to live. Let's dive in, because you're not finished yet. You're just getting started. There's a moment, and if you're listening to this, I think you felt it too, when something inside you quietly shifts. Now, not with fireworks in a big celebratory way, and not with an easy, clear-cut decision. It arrives in quite the opposite way, quietly, almost like the way sunlight shifts across a room when a cloud passes by, slowly, almost unnoticeably, until you look up and realize the room is different from the way it was before. You begin to feel yourself again, not the version of you who was holding everything together by sheer willpower, and not the version who was defined by a role, a relationship, or what other people needed from you, but the version who knows, who's always known, that she's capable of more. If that's where you are today, even faintly, even tentatively, I want you to know that what you're sensing is real. Confidence rarely returns with a roar. More often, it returns like a tide, subtle at first, then steady, then impossible to ignore. You may not be ready to call this boldness yet, but something in you is forming. Something is clearing the way. Something has been gathering strength beneath the surface, and it's finally ready to stretch. This episode is for that part of you, the one who is coming forward, not recklessly or loudly, but with a quiet certainty that something in your life is beginning to align. Before we go any further, I want to speak to the part of you that's been quietly rearranging itself beneath the surface. You may not have the words for it yet, but you can feel it. Something is loosening. Something is strengthening. Something in you is stirring. Maybe you've spent years shaped by responsibilities, a marriage, children, a career, caregiving, and you're only now realizing you're allowed to want something entirely your own. Maybe you've been walking through a season of transition, something like retirement or an empty house, a role that ended, and a loss you didn't choose. And the fog is slowly lifting. Or maybe you've realized that staying the same is the heavier choice. However you got here, you're not behind. You're certainly not late. And you're certainly not lost. You're simply evolving. And deep down, I know you can feel it. There's a particular quality to the change that comes when a woman begins to reclaim herself. It doesn't announce itself. The people around her may not even notice it at first, but she does. She notices she isn't second-guessing herself the way she used to. She notices she's stopped apologizing for wanting more. She notices she isn't shrinking herself to make anyone else more comfortable. She begins to trust her own instincts again. not because she has all the answers, but because she finally trusts herself to navigate whatever comes next. This is what it looks like when a woman's confidence returns in a way that is earned, not performed. It's quieter than people expect, and it's far more powerful. If you're sensing that in yourself, honor it. Don't try to explain it away. You aren't imagining it, and you didn't make it up. You grew into it, slowly, quietly, and on your own terms. I want to tell you something I wish someone had said to me years ago. You are not alone in this. You are not the only one who feels this internal shift. You're not the only one who has paid a price for wanting more. And you are not the only one who has wondered, in the quieter moments, whether the hunger you feel for something deeper is too much to ask for. I've been there. There have been stretches of my life when the growth I was craving didn't make sense to the people around me. I've let go of friendships along the way, not because anyone was wrong or unkind, but because they couldn't understand the pull I felt towards something more true, more aligned, and more mine. And over time, I came to understand something important. They didn't have to understand it. This was my evolution to follow, not theirs to validate. Sometimes the people who love the earlier version of you don't know what to do with the woman you're becoming. That doesn't make you wrong, and it doesn't make them wrong. It simply means you're outgrowing a version of yourself, and that is nothing to be ashamed of. So if you've felt alone in this, if certain relationships have started to feel strained, if some people don't seem to recognize the confidence returning in you, you're not imagining it, and you're absolutely not too much. To put it in simple terms, you're growing, and growth has a way of clarifying who can walk with you and who can't. But here's what I want you to hold on to. You are not alone. I go through this the same way you do. And every woman I've coached, mentored, or sat across from has gone through it too. You are in very good company, even when it doesn't feel that way. I want to share a personal story with you, one that carries a bit of irony and says a lot about how growth actually works. I changed schools a few times growing up, and as a very shy girl, that was hard in ways I couldn't articulate back then. I would latch onto a few close friends quickly, and then the move would happen, and those friendships would fade. For years, I quietly wondered if something was wrong with me, why I couldn't seem to hold on to people the way other women did. I used to admire women who had the same best friend since third grade. I wondered what they had that I didn't. But looking back now, I can see something I couldn't see then. Those transitions gave me permission to grow without the weight of who I'd already been. You see, every new environment allowed me to become a slightly different version of myself. And there was a gift buried in that, even if it didn't feel like one at the time. And here's the part that still surprises me. One of the biggest expansions of my life did not happen in childhood at all, even though it felt like it at the time. It happened in my 50s. The once shy girl who struggled to speak up, the one who kept starting over, listened to something steady and sure within herself and stepped out of a career she'd held for 30 years. She became a public speaker. She launched a podcast. She became a version of herself she never could have imagined as that quiet little girl who kept losing friends to new zip codes. I know I'm not for everyone, but I know I'm honoring myself in this life I'm building. And that matters more to me now than staying small enough to fit into who I used to be. I share this with you because your rise may look entirely different from mine, but it carries the same truth. When a woman finally grows into herself, something shifts that she cannot and should not ignore. It doesn't feel like adrenaline. It feels like clarity. It feels like waking up one morning and realizing you're done negotiating with your own potential and worrying about what others think. It feels like noticing that the things that once intimidated you now feel like invitations. It feels like recognizing that you're no longer waiting for permission. You're simply choosing because you are done with the version of your life that no longer fits. And here's the reassurance you need. You don't have to be loud to be bold. You don't have to be fearless to be ready. You don't have to have a plan to begin. You see, boldness isn't a personality trait. It's a decision. And you're closer to making it than you think. If my prior podcast episode was about releasing the mental weight, the overthinking, the overprocessing, the endless reflections, and the questions that circle back on themselves without going anywhere, then this moment is about what happens after the exhale. This is the inhale that follows, and not the panicked kind. This is the steady, intentional kind of inhale. The kind that fills your lungs with possibility. The kind that reminds you you're still very much alive. You're still very much in the game. You're not pondering the same questions anymore, and you're not trying to earn your next chapter. You're stepping into it boldly. So here's what I want you to consider. What if the confidence you're feeling isn't a fluke? What if it's not a good day or a lucky week, but the beginning of something that's been building in you for a long time? What if the boldness you sense in yourself isn't a coincidence? What if it's actually a calling? You don't have to leap. You don't have to announce anything. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You simply have to acknowledge what you already feel, that something in you is rising. And then give yourself permission to rise with it. You are not who you were a few months ago. You're steadier, you're clearer, you're more rooted than you give yourself credit for. And you're ready, not because everything is perfect or figured out, but because you're finally aligned with yourself more than you have been in a very long time. The boldness that's coming isn't reckless. It's earned, rooted, and it's entirely yours. Until next time, keep moving from dim to daring. Thank you so much for joining me today on Dim to Daring. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love it if you subscribed, shared it with a friend, or left a review. It helps more women just like you discover the show. Remember, you're not finished yet. You're just getting started. Until next time, keep daring to grow and shine.